Hi, babe. Welcome to the Horror Babe Show. I'm your host, Chelsea Beller. It's Friday, which means it's FilmQuest Filmmaker Friday. Join me as I chat with the women behind The Killgrin, a women-made monster movie focusing on grief. This brilliant feature debuted at FilmQuest in October, and while I was not able to meet with them in person, I'm supremely grateful we had the opportunity to meet virtually. Listen in as we talk women in horror, making monsters out of thin air, and the horrors that inspired this story. Let's tune in to my conversation with Joanna, Konstantina, and Maryam. Sweet, we are recording. Hi, babes.
Hello. So nice to be here.
It is so nice to have you on here. Thank you so much for being here virtually. And again, it's really awesome that we were able to set this up.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick introductions. We're here with Joanna Tsanis, Konstantina Mantelos, and Maryam Remtulla. Joanna wrote and directed The Killgrin, which is a woman-made monster movie, which is rad. And that debuted at FilmQuest. Konstantina plays the lead, Miranda, and Maryam was the associate producer. Did I miss anyone's roles?
No, I mean, it was an indie film, so we all did wear multiple hats. I'm sure Maryam, in addition to the associate producer, was like a location manager at some moments, craft at other moments. So pretty, and me as well.
LP, all of the above, all of the acronyms.
It's a testament to Maryam's producing and doing all those things that I got to just be an actor for once on a.
That's the goal.
Oh, nice, right? When you're on an indie project and you're like, oh wait, I just have this one thing. Yeah, it's awesome. I've recently made my own short film and also wore many hats, so I totally get that.
Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Not as big a congratulations as it is for you guys. Like, this was truly incredible. I loved rewatching it last night. So many things to talk about. So The Killgrin is about a young woman who is undergoing several self-help methods when she discovers she's potentially infected with something called a Killgrin, and that feeds off of her misery. So this was so intriguing and so topical, because who among us is not looking for some kind of self-care in this world? Joanna, can you tell me, like, what inspired this story?
Sure. So it's funny, when I was 16 years old, I was living in downtown Toronto, and there were all these like $10 psychics around. And I was struggling with something, as all teenage girls are always struggling with something. And I went to the psychic, and the psychic actually told me that there was something wrong with my aura and that I needed to pay her for, I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe it was a crystal, maybe it was an orb, but she wanted me to buy this thing which would resolve all my issues. Of course, I did not have the money for it. I was 16, and she kind of gave me a look after, like, oh, well, you'll see. Of course, you know, I'm still here, so everything turned out fine. But that kind of sat in the back of my head for a very long time. And then during the pandemic, when the mental health crisis was really exacerbated, I started thinking about all the different ways in which people self-soothe and all the different ways people engage with self-help. And sometimes it's more traditional, sometimes it's more new age, and sometimes it's unfortunately very self-destructive. So I wanted to really make a creature film about that.
I love that. You are Miranda. That is so crazy. Honestly, when I watched that, I was like when I watched that particular scene, I was like, I wonder if that's really happened. And you just proved it really has. Like, there are so many people out there who are just like nickel and diming you because of your grief or
Even
any
with
number of
conspiracy theorists too, right? Like they will buy all kinds of things in preparation for the apocalypse, and it's really just another form of self-help, and something.
truly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I was intensely curious. Is the Killgrin based on something? Is it based on like some kind of cultural or mythological like creature or anything? And like, how did you come up with it? How did you come up with the look for this monster?
First off, I really wanted to make a creature film because I love creature films, and I love that the creature kind of outlives the film and it joins this roster of monsters in the horror universe. And for the film, the monster is an original concept, though there are many films and creatures out there that are similar. Like, for example, Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cairo, it wasn't so much a creature as it was sort of this infection of loneliness that was forcing people to that was causing people to disappear, and that's sort of similar but not exactly the same. So it was an original monster in terms of the design, which it was designed by Adrian Bob, and the practical effects and the prosthetics were built by Butcher Shop Effects Studio. When I was sort of conjuring up the visual language of the monster with them, I really wanted it to be something that you kind of are scared of, but you pity at the same time. I wanted it to look like something that was pain, since it is something that's born from pain, since that's really the lore of the monster, is that people are undergoing so much emotional pain that it kind of leaks out of them and becomes an entity of its own.
Right. Wow. I love that. I love that you created this monster out of thin air. That's amazing. A question for Konstantina. Is this your first time in a horror film? And also, how do you feel about horror?
Ooh, I love horror. It's not my first time. I had done a couple of short horror projects, but a few years ago, I was in a film called Anything for Jackson. That's a Vortex Pictures Shudder original, and that film, that was my first foray into sort of a leading role in a feature length horror film, and it also had its fair share of monsters and a lot of practical effects, and was just such an enlivening experience as an actor. Here in Toronto, we get a lot of like large American like TV show productions here.
Right.
Really great to work on, super fun. Yeah. It was like a big short film, everyone. And it was the same thing with the Killgrin, everyone that was working on it got to kind of flex their creative muscles and really got to play. There were a lot of monsters in Anything for Jackson. It certainly prepared me for what I was going to face in the Killgrin. I spend most of the film kind of chained to a bed, I kidnapped, and there's all kinds of experiments and things being done on me, and monsters kind of tormenting me. There was quite a freedom to, in this film, getting to kind of face my monster in a more, the whole theme of the film is about, the ways that we try to face our demons. Miranda is very much a fixer, I find. Like, she is to kind of stay down too long, and she's sort of desperately, despite all these things, kind of tormented, really trying to find solutions. And it was very freeing, being a part of this story where I got to kind of keep trying and keep fighting. Try and defeat the monster kind of hands-on.
I love that. That's so cool. So do you hope to be involved in more horror films in the future?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Horror. Some of my favorite films are horror. I've been a huge fan of some of the new stuff that's come out over the last few years. I've literally got actually those A24 script books of like Hereditary and The Witch on my shelf right there. Whether it's projects that I'm kind of developing alongside Joanna, as well as some of my own projects, there's definitely some horror in the works for the future.
Nice. Oh, good. Okay, great. Because you make a wonderful, fantastic final girl.
Thank
So
you.
I'm really excited to see you do this again. That's awesome. I have a question for Maryam. What was it like producing this film? Did you know Joanna previously? Had you like created this project together, or did she bring you on? Like, tell me about the process.
Yeah, totally. So Joanna and I met, I think, almost 5 years ago now. It was right
Wow.
before the pandemic, and I had just been producing and working on docs. That was my kind of start in the industry, and I really wanted to
Yeah.
make a jump into narrative. And through a couple of mutual connections, I met Joanna,
Yeah.
and we clicked right away. I have a bit of a different relationship with horror. I think like a lot of other artists or visual people, like it sticks in my head, and I like the scary stuff like will be there when I'm trying to fall asleep at night. So for a very long time I was very horror averse, but then going through school I really like got into feminist horror and female-led horror
Nice.
and body horror, and like and Constantina mentioned really well of like and Joanna creating this monster that literally is like such a beautiful metaphor for like our pain leaking out, and nothing does or represents that like horror. So I really fell more in love with it as I went through school.
Yeah.
And then honestly, meeting Joanna, we had some really awesome talks and long talks about
Oh,
horror, female-led horror, monsters. She's got such a great like mind for it as well, and we talked about what certain things meant. And obviously, working on them, you get a little less averse, like seeing the blood
right.
in the gags. You're like,
Right. Yeah.
I watch things and I enjoy it so much more, and I'm so much more like into horror as a genre now, and have such an appreciation for it. But I can also watch it, and if I feel myself getting like very scared or like this is going to be my nightmare fuel, I'm like, I wonder how they did that. I wonder how they.
Right.
I wonder who paid for that. How did they get that lot? Like now my brain is like about it.
Yes.
But yeah, so Joanna and I, we worked together a bunch. We worked on a horror anthology together. And then when it was time to make this film, this was my first feature at a producer role. So it was really, really
Nice.
incredible. And Konstantina mentioned it as well. It was very daunting, but it was like a long short. Like it was very daunting coming into it. But at the end of the day, I was like,
Right.
this is so nice. I get to spend longer with the creatives on the process. There's more money, which is great. And
Yeah.
by that much, you know. But still like getting to spend more time on a creative on that process felt like such a treat, where a lot of the times everything I'd done before in the horror produced horror was short and short format,
Right.
so it felt like such a treat
Yeah.
of it everything longer and have more time with everyone from director to my PAs on set and things like that. But yeah, Joanna sent me the script. I remember it's like I couldn't put it down. I read through it in like one go, and I was like, oh good, let me, however I can be a part of this, I'm down.
Oh, that's so cool. So you guys are like this team, and you plan on doing more projects together.
Think of ourselves as some horror babes, you know?
Yes.
Hell yeah. That's what we want, right?
Yeah.
We need more horror babes. Yeah.
We do have a margarita session booked for early December where we're going to work on our next project a little bit. So excited for that. It's always great working with your friends. That's the best thing about indie film is
Right.
there are definitely limitations with indie film,
Of
budget
course.
being one of them. But one of the
Yes.
good things is you kind of get to pick your people, and it's a really joyful time in that respect.
Mhm.
It truly is. Yeah. I love it. Honestly, I almost love indies more than, big box office stuff, because you can just feel this is so cringy. You can feel the love in it,
No, it's so true, and I feel like you can
Right.
feel the authenticity and the honesty
Yeah.
that sometimes gets scrubbed away as you go through the more corporate processes.
Honestly, like you can feel the honesty in it, because also you go into watching indie films knowing there wasn't some, big exec going, oh, do this, change that. We don't like that. We're not going to put money towards this, And it's like, oh yeah, they made all the choices that they wanted because that was the choice they wanted. And it's refreshing. Sorry also if I sound like I have a cold. I've been struggling with allergies. Do you guys have allergies?
Me not so much, but I did get a cold basically the second I came home from FilmQuest.
Same, yeah.
Oh my gosh. The minute I landed, I took a shower and I was like, oh no.
Oh no. Yeah, I felt like I got back and I was just like, whoa, I need to take like a week off from everything.
Yes. It was so much fun though. What a festival.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
What a great festival. This was my first time, but I'm assuming you guys have been before.
I've been once before, but I've had films actually a couple years ago I had two short films at FilmQuest, but I wasn't able to go because I was filming the Killgrin. Yeah, I've had a number of short films, including a short film that I shot with Konstantina in the lead role of it. So yeah, indirectly, Konstantina has been at FilmQuest. She's been on screen, but it was this was something else. Like being able to premiere the film there at like one of my favorite genre festivals, and hearing the audience reactions and hearing all of the humor land and the scares land. It was a very rewarding experience.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's just really something about being in a room full of your peers who are all just so happy to be there. It's so nice.
Yeah, genre audiences are the best. They're so interactive, and it just makes for a great experience. That's kind of how you have to watch horror, to be honest.
It was my first FilmQuest as well, and I can't imagine a better place to have premiered the film. There was just so much energy and love for genre filmmaking and love for horror and love for engaging with movies in a fun way, in a positive way, with so much creativity and so many other creators in the space. I absolutely loved it.
Joanna, what horror films inspired your direction with this script?
Well, Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Karo, it's a 90s J horror, and it was a big inspiration for a lot of the scares, and is also for a lot of the thematic elements of the film. In terms of the humor, Sam Raimi is always an inspiration for me. I love Sam Raimi. He's one of my favorite horror directors, and I really wanted to make sure I had that levity throughout the film. And the original script for this film had even more. It was like it was like a wacky film, but then it ended up kind of through the process we kind of toned that down. But yeah, those would be two influences, and then another influence would be Midnight Mass, Mike Flanagan, and that's more so for the quieter moments and the moments of people connecting and talking through their emotional pain, while this kind of lingering dark force is in the background and creates sort of this atmosphere throughout. So that's those would be, I guess, the key influences in terms of the direction of the film.
Totally. Mike Flanagan is king.
Oh yeah.
I will create an altar to him. What an inspiration. I love him so much. And Sam Raimi, I mean, you can't go wrong. Konstantina, what did you do to prepare for the intense themes of this film?
I like to often prepare by watching films that kind of I feel exist in maybe like the feeling of the character and everything like that. I feel like that helps to kind of imaginatively sort of bring me into the world that I'm going to be existing in. So it was helpful, watching things at the time like Midnight Mass and The Haunting of Hill House. It was, one of my favorite series. I found a lot of influence. There's a sort of a subtle sort of detective story that's happening throughout the film as well. It was funny when Joanna told me that Pulse was an influence, because I really like this other Kiyoshi Kurosawa film called Cure from the 90s. I like to refer to people as sort of like the Japanese Seven, because it came out around both these kind of serial killer, dark, grungy 90s detective stories in which, of what's happening really starts to consume the detective. And I really kind of pulled a lot from those characters, and Florence Pugh in Midsummer. I mean, favorite films. one element of this film that, a lot of people, or we've talked a lot about the sort of general mental health, symbolism and metaphors that occur in the film. But another huge thing for Miranda is gaslighting. Like a huge kind of aspect to her journey is themes of gaslighting. It's themes of emotionally destructive relationships. She's in these multiple different relationships that kind of weigh on her. I've got some of my own personal experiences that I was able to kind of pull from and recognize. Also music is also was also a huge influence on kind of separating myself from cast and crew when I needed to, and just recognize, okay, where am I at in the journey, and what kind of thing is she about to face, and where can I go energetically?
Yeah, I love that. This is the second interview where I've heard someone has used music to get in a specific frame of mind, and I really love that technique. I just think it's so vital, because music is like in us, it just like touches a point of your brain that you're like, oh yeah, that's what I need to feel.
I had like some fun surprises. Like I hadn't even prepared it. It was sort of during the process of making the movie that I like found my like teenage self. Like a part of me I kind of like forgotten a little bit. Like listening to a lot of Rise Against again, which was sort of my vibe in high school, and some of these kind of angrier rock bands that I hadn't listened to in a while. Like one day I was just kind of going home from set, and I was like, this is where Miranda lives,
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. All right, well, my last question for all of you is, what message or feeling do you hope audiences walk away with?
It's a great question. I think in this film, every character has their own way of self-soothing and engaging in self-help, but what a lot of them ignore is people. A lot of them ignore community and reaching out to others. And I hope people can walk away from this knowing just because you're not tough doesn't mean you're not strong, and you can find strength in other people. That doesn't make you weak. You can engage with other people, and I hope that's what people walk away with. I hope that's the message they walk away with.
I feel like for me, like the two words that I hope it doesn't sound too generic, but like for me, like hope and strength feel like the two things I think a lot about, like where Miranda ends the film. And there's by no means a final solution to the problem of of suffering, but what I hope the message that comes through, and that comes through so much through the film, is you have the power within yourself to overcome the darkness that sometimes starts to consume.
Yeah, 100%. Maryam?
It's interesting because I have like also a like nice kind of wholesome takeaway, but then of this like horror movie. There's one that I'll say that hopefully doesn't spoil too much, but it's Remember to Look Up. If you've seen the movie, you know what that means. But and that's my more wholesome one. But I would also say sometimes it's interesting to make friends with your monsters, and maybe friends isn't the right word, but there's an element to this film that is very much about looking demons straight in the face and making peace with them almost, and fighting, but also peace. And I think that's such an amazing element of this film. And there's a couple of like last shots I'm thinking of that really stand out in my brain that I haven't personally seen a lot in other films, so it really stuck with me. So
I do love that we get quite a bit of face time with this monster. And I mean, that's basically what the three of you were saying, like face your demons, and that's what Miranda does. So thank you guys so much for chatting with me.
This was great. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
Of course. I'm so glad. I'm just so glad we were able to do this, at least virtually.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's it from me and the women of the Killgrin. Hope you enjoyed this week's FilmQuest Filmmaker Friday. Tune in every Friday for a new filmmaker interview. Please don't forget to like, comment, follow, and subscribe. Follow me and the lovely horror babes that were here today on Instagram. Their social media handles are below. Thank you again for watching. Bye, babe.